Greetings and welcome to the channel. So this is going to be primarily a Raven impressions video. I haven't actually gave my thoughts on the character since he's been patched for Season 2. So there will be chapters in this video for you to skip around to the part that matters to you. But I felt like, you know what, let me give a little bit more than just my impressions. I wanted to actually show a couple of the techniques in action to not necessarily teach you how to play Raven, but it just might give you a solid foundation to apply what you see in this video, make it your own, and take your own path. That's pretty much like my plan in yeah, that's kind of like my plan whenever I do these sort of videos. So anyway, with that being said, let's just jump into it. So to start, let me cover some of Raven's let me just say my preferred neutral tools. So number one, you have obviously down back 2, right? As you can see here, you can cancel the stance and basically be safe. It's a mid 13 frame attack. That's very, very good. But the thing that I also like to do is utilize Raven standing 4-1. You can also utilize that. Cancel the stance if you want to make the attack safe. Now on hit, standing 4-1 gives 29 damage, places you in back turn at +7. It's a very, very advantageous position to be in. I'll circle back around to that. Now for down back 2. This is also a very good move on hit. It does 13 damage and it's +5. It does have a follow-up, placing it at +8. However, the follow-up can be crouched and it looks like this. So you have to be mindful of this. And you cannot delay this string either. So rounding out your neutral game with Raven, naturally you have your standing 1, your 1-2, down forward 1. I would even throw in down 3. I think a lot of people tend to not appreciate this low attack. It does 10 damage. It's a 15 frame startup. It's 0 on hit, but it definitely elicits a response out of your opponent. Many characters have an attack similar to this that I feel is underutilized, but I will circle back around to this particular tactic in a moment. Now, in my opinion, one of the best moves that Raven has in his arsenal is his down forward 3. Now, this down forward 3 is a 16 frame high, which means that this is not an attack that your opponent can duck on reaction. This is an attack that they have to preemptively already be ducking. And that goes for any character. So if you have a very strong move that's about, I would say, up to 20, maybe 22 frames and lower, those moves, you're more than likely not going to be able to react to them on reaction. It's very unlikely. If it's any slower, like 27, you might be able to kind of see it and react. But this move here, no. This right here, if your opponent is not already ducking, they're gonna either get hit or they're gonna block this move. So what I love about the move is that it is a perfect high crush and it is also safe at -9. Some of my setups to actually get this as a counter hit are as follows. Standing 1, free counter hit. 1-2, counter hit. Down forward 1, counter hit. Down 3, counter hit. The new Soul Zone 3, counter hit. The new back turn, back 2-4, counter hit. There's so many different ways that you can make the use of down forward 3 exceptional. And it will pay a lot of dividends for you because there's so many different ways to get your opponent to mash. And then all you got to do is just send them sky high and just erase their life bar. Your mileage with this will vary. You know, but I do feel it is something viable for you to kind of just add into your game and just kind of play around with it, make it your own and see how well it fares for you. Because I can tell you for me, it works very well for me. So in that last segment, I did show some of his newer moves. Well, I would say new variations of the move, which is his Soul Zone 3. As you can see, he drops from the ground now, or from excuse me, from the sky. And then from that, you can either hold the opposite direction to remain back turn, hold down to access your crouch state, or just let it neutral and you'll just drop right back down right in front of your opponent. So just to kind of demonstrate that, if I do Soul Zone 3 and hold the opposite direction, I land back turn. If I don't do anything, I land just neutral. If I hold down, it places me in a crouch state where I can just further mix up with crouch moves, or I could do my while standing attacks. Anytime Raven is dropping from the ground like this, you have access to all of those mechanics. So use them as you see fit. Another new move that Raven got is this back turn down 2. This move is exceptional because it is a 20 frame low, it does 20 damage, it's +4 on hit, and it is only -12 on block. So that means you cannot be launched for it. This is a very strong tool and one that I feel you should definitely use with extreme prejudice. On counter hit, it gives a knockdown. I would definitely say if you are doing this move and you're like looping it, which you can, which will look like, if I take them off counter, which could look like this. You might have seen this on social media. So basically all it is when you're going back turn, you hit down 2, you're going to automatically drop from the sky. So all you're really doing is as you're dropping from the sky, you hold back to remain back turn, do the down 2 again, and just keep repeating. That's basically how you do that. Now on counter hit, it will knock down, which I found this to be optimal, unless the community finds something else. But if you happen to be landing with your back turn, aiming to do another rotation, this isn't bad either. This isn't bad either. Because what ends up happening here is if after this, once your opponent is knocked down to the ground, if your opponent is attempting to do a while standing attack like a wake up kick, if you just so happen to do back turn forward 3, it will connect on counter. So that scenario would look like this. So you see it landed on counter hit. So basically I had Raven wake up with a mid attack, as you see. Now I'm going to change it to the low attack. And it's going to be the exact same thing. So that's definitely something to kind of keep in mind. Now, of course, the opponent can just roll back. They can just stay on the ground, which affords you other options as well. So, of course, your opponent doesn't have to wake up with any mid or low kick. They can elect to kind of just stay on the ground. And if you catch the read and you can just catch them on the ground, it can look like this. So you can do something like this. But of course, mess around with it in the lab, figure out something. But this is just a general idea of what you can do. Now, another good thing about the back turn down punch is, like I said, this move is +4. So what that means is, and I'm thinking about just creating a frame data video for you guys. So when you are +4 in this situation and you're back turn, all you really have to do is just ask yourself, what moves do I have in back turn that are 14 frames and under? Because if you're +4, that means that your opponent's fastest move typically is going to be 10 frames. For instance, you're going to have access to back turn forward 3, and as you can see on the screen, the attack startup frames is 13, 14. The 14 just means that this knee has one additional active frame, but it connects on the 13th frame. So given that you are +4 on this, and you end in back turn, that's going to allow you to get a counter hit knee attack. That's all that really means. You can also do a back turn 2, back turn 1, back turn 3, because back turn 3 is 10 frames, back turn 2 is 10, back turn 1 is 8. Now, for instance, you're not going to be able to do back turn 4 because that's 19 frames. You only have 4 advantage frames to work with. So given that the knee lift here is safe at -5, that is ideally the best option. And it is an option that if your opponent starts to take that often, they're going to no longer press buttons because they don't want to run the risk of getting hit by this. They don't want that to happen. Because when that does happen, at this point you're +14. Now we go back to the frame data again. What moves do you have with Raven that is 14 frames and under? So we have these scenarios right here. Oh, excuse me. That's actually my preferred option because back 4 is 14 frames and it fits right along within the frame advantage that we got by landing the back turn knee. But you can also do down back 2-1. You can do 4-1. So there's other options you can do. Basically anything that is 14 frames and under if you manage to catch that counter hit knee. So it's up to you. So it's a very strong technique to utilize after you make contact with Raven's new down 2. So that is definitely something to kind of bear in mind. Now, of course, your opponent may start to read you. So this is where instead of doing the back turn down 2, back turn 4 actually works perfect. Why? Because back turn down 2 is 20 frames. Back turn 4 is 19. So that basically means that they only have 1 frame to differentiate what move is going to come next, right? So they're going to have to take that guess. And then in addition, the other back turn moves you have actually fall right in line. Back turn, back 3, this is 18. Down 2 is 20, and this is 19. So they're basically fall, if you notice, one is 18, 19, and 20. They fall sequentially in line with each other, each hitting at different levels, right? So the 18 back turn, so frame 18, back turn, back 3, that's your plus frame homing attack. So this will give you +4. So after you get +4, you're in a similar situation as if you made contact with down 2, like I showed you just recently. So just like how you could do back turn down 2, land back turn and go into the knee, you could do the exact same thing with back turn back 3. The exact same scenario. So it's up to you how you utilize that. But they are very, very strong options and definitely worth your attention and certainly worth implementing into your game. So another amazing benefit that back turn down 2 affords is that it is also a perfect high crush. And so it really makes utilizing the neutral tools I showed in the first segment, such as down back 2 and 4-1, even more effective, because now before, kind of like the best option you had, honestly, was just to go for your attack reversal, which is back turn forward both punches, or you can warp out. But now, if they're mashing, of course you can go for your armor move as well. That is -13, and depending on their attack, for instance, they're going to end up blocking. So if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, you can just simply use down 2 in both of those situations, and it'll look like this. So as you just saw, the offense doesn't stop, once down back 2 and 4-1 is blocked. You can pretty much go into your down 2 pressure from there. So what this is going to force the opponent to do, it's going to force the opponent to, one, no longer mash. And what they're going to do is you might see a scenario like this where they'll do this. They're going to react to this because they're expecting the down 2. And in that situation, see like this, they have to commit to that duck. They have to. So what you can do now is the enhanced back turn both kicks. You could go for this. And when I say enhanced, as you notice, it doesn't send you sky high the way it used to in Season 1 and other prior Tekkens. But it also is no longer minus a billion on block. It is now only minus 14. Now, there are some characters that can punish this with a launcher, like Jin can do down both kicks, and maybe some other characters. But if you can get the read and you're willing to bet it all, you know, it won't hurt to go for this. So a sample combo in the event you do manage to make contact with the back turn both kick launcher can look something like this. So depending on what you want to do, but that's generally, you know, kind of gives you an idea what you can do. I mean, there's a lot of other things you can, but that's just a sample. So moving right along, showcasing Ravens back turn back to 4. So what I like about this is that it is a natural string. As you can see, we have Victor ducking after he blocks, but as you can see here, it jails. So I was actually surprised that Namco left it like this, because I felt like they would have definitely made it so that this would not be natural. But the fact that it is natural to where it is a natural, it's a jailing string, you know, so if you're blocking, you have to deal with it. And it's also natural on hit, you know, so if you manage to land the 16 frame mid elbow, the kick is going to hit you. So it'll look like this. So it's a natural strike. So I'm actually surprised Namco left it like this. I'm glad, but I'm actually surprised. So with this, when Raven is descending from the ground, he is actually neutral. So at this point, that's what makes the earlier example that I showed utilizing the counter hit down forward 3 so effective, because more often than not, your opponent is more than likely going to mash buttons. And the preferred mash for most Tekken players is a standing 1-2. So, you know, that is a very strong technique. So if I were to put him again to punish, you'll see this in action. So you see he's mashing. So from here, you know, you can take advantage of that if you know your opponent is going to mash by either doing landing and back turn and just simply doing the down 2, and now it'll look like this. And now we'll land on counter hit. The full scenario could look something like this. So that's 42 damage. Or you can go for the home run and just, when you're warping from the sky, you don't hold back or down, you just let it be neutral and just do down forward 3. And you get a very massive combo from there. So I do love that these are viable options for you. And then of course, once your opponent starts to respect this and they start to not press buttons, you will notice your opponent not pressing anything. And then that's where you can either loop it again or just continue your pressure. You know, and that could also look like something like this. And at this point, because they're not mashing, you can instead now go for this move, get your +4, and then move on accordingly. And everything that I just showed with this also applies to Soul Zone 3. Because with Soul Zone 3, you're -1, but don't pay attention to that. It's not really that much of a big deal. They could have probably just had this at -0 as well. So you can apply those same techniques to this. So I feel between Soul Zone 3 and back turn 2-4, those are very, very strong options. Now, you do have access to these same options also utilizing Raven's newly enhanced standing 2-4. The only difference with standing 2-4 is that it is possible for your opponent to actually crouch. So for instance, right, it is not a jailing technique the way back turn back 2-4 is. If I were to do standing 2-4, you'll see my opponent can duck. So you want to be mindful of that. However, when utilizing this as part of a punish, personally, I prefer to always punish 12 frames utilizing standing 4-1. But if it's 10 frames, definitely this is very viable. And then you would then have the same access to the drop down. I just call it the drop down. So Raven drops down, and you could drop down, hold it back, go back turn. And with this, you're +8. So you actually have a little bit more wiggle room to utilize additional back turn options because you're +8 here. So for instance, being +8 will allow you to do, back turn back 3. In fact, so let me show you what that looks like. Now this move will trade, and you're going to see that. So you see it trades, and it trades at +42. Raven, the character, definitely rewards creativity and thinking outside the box. Now I have to add this into the video because one of the things I bitched and complained about last year and even earlier this year talking about Raven is his running 3, while running 3. And that move, for whatever reason, was the slowest running attack in the game. It was at 26 frames, and now look at it. Now this move is 22 frames. It has 2 additional frames of active, 2 active frames, I mean. That's the reason why it says 22-24. It's +4 on block, placing you a back turn. It's a very great technique. Pretty much it affords you the same kind of options as the other options I showed. Basically, you can go back turn, down 2, you know, so there's just so much utility you have with this, and I'm so glad that Namco decided to buff the speed of this, but they not only buffed the speed of this attack, surprisingly, they also buffed the speed of quarter circle forward 2. Ironically, they come out at the same frames. They come out at the exact same frame. See, running 3 is 22, quarter circle forward 2, or QCF 2 is 22 frames. This move alone is amazing because that puts it at the same speed as Jin's Scourge, or down 2 that Jin had, that has been justifiably nerfed in this game. But at 22 frames, this move is borderline unseeable, or should I say unreactable. And given the fact that this move is only -12, you cannot be launched for this. And this move on hit is +5. And it also allows you to go back turn 2 frames faster. This move alone has so much utility. I urge you to add this into your game with Raven, because before this move was 25. Now, ironically, this move did pair very well with quarter circle forward 1+2, which has also been buffed in this game. As you just seen, this move now causes a stun and gives you +5 as well. So this is +5 on block, and this is +5 on hit. In prior videos, I did speak to my love of down back 3 and up forward 3, and how if you look at both of their startups, you know, down back 3 is 28, well 29 if you count the active frame, and up forward 3 is 29, 30 being the active frame. So you only have 1 frame to fuzzy between the two, and I very much love it because down back 3 is a very good match, or should I say a round ender. It's a perfect low crush, and it is +5 on hit. Well, if your opponent happens to mash buttons after this, here's their fate. That's potentially what can happen to you, especially if you're fighting me. The beauty behind this is that this attack is completely safe on block. So basically, when you are in a +5 situation as a Raven player and you're in a crouch state, utilizing while standing 2 is always an amazing option. And then you have access to the same technique if your opponent now blocks quarter circle forward 1+2. It's the same scenario because they're still +5 and you're recovering while crouched. And then from there, once your opponents stop mashing, you are free to go to like other techniques and mix up as you see fit. Now, of course, we can't forget about Aqua Spider. This is arguably one of the best low attacks in the game, given the fact that even if your opponent blocks, it's not going to result in a launch. And if you can make the read, you can keep yourself safe by utilizing your attack counter or just simply warping out the way, like so. And then, of course, we know on counter hit, you know, the move is going to give you a guaranteed follow-up. But now that you have access to the back turn down 2, you might want to utilize that instead because it can potentially lead to additional pressure situations. You know, so just mix up as you see fit. So another excellent move that I 1000% urge for you as a Raven player to definitely add into your game is Raven's back turn 3-4-4 string. This move right here, I would argue and say this is one of, if not the best. It's not a single strike move, but it's probably the best string. But I mean, look, I just feel it's one of the best because the way this move works. So I'm going to have to just break this down. And I've done it in prior videos, so bear with me. So let's say if the opponent is going to be mashing, right? The opponent mashes. So after the first 2 kicks, I'm still safe. You are 0 here. Now let's say if you want to finish the string. All that's guaranteed. So what's going to happen now is your opponent is going to get tired of taking that. So what's going to happen is this. They're going to literally block the first 2 kicks and not do anything. And I can attest to this. I've done this more than probably any Raven player. I'm willing to wager. So when they're like this, I can go for my grab. I can, you know, I can loop it again, you know, and then that's the beauty part right there. That's the beauty. If that kick trades, which I will show right here, you are now +15. Now at this point, you can get down back to 1. You can do that. That is 100% guaranteed. You can get 1+2 for your heat engager. I mean, there's just so many ways you can utilize it. Now, I have noticed there were some changes depending on if the opponent is doing a standing 1 versus a standing 2. The frames can be altered. But on the safe side, you're generally always able to get this as a follow-up, generally. Sometimes I'm able to get this move, but it would depend. This is where I said it depends if the opponent happened to do a standing right punch instead. But, you know, this is definitely one of the best strings, in my opinion. Just for the sheer utility of it, it is absolutely amazing. And definitely one I 1000% urge for you to add into your game. So another great move that is 16 frames is, I mean, it carries over from season 1, is the back 1 elbow. Now the back 1 does, you know, decent chip, but it's +7. It puts your opponent in a crouch state. What I also like about this is that out of Soul Zone 1, they buffed that to where now it's +1, as you can see by the way Victor reacts on guard. So one of the better techniques to do is you can dash forward and go for a down forward 1+4 because this grab comes out at 11 frames. So you can actually get that. You know, it's a very viable technique to do. Typically, if you do the back one elbow and your opponent is mashing, it doesn't hurt to throw out the Soul Zone 1. So you're doing the Soul Zone 1 to keep them honest. And then once they stop pressing buttons, that's when you can start imposing your drop down mixes, like so. But if your opponent is mashing, you're not going to be able to do this. So that's why it is key that you condition your opponent with this. Now, if you know for sure that your opponent is going to mash after your back one situation, you can now then do this, which is Soul Zone 1+2. And given the fact that it gives you a tornado launch on counter hit now, you're able to get more out of it. I do feel that this back one is still very, very viable. And also, if we're going according to the frame data, because back one is a high, if your opponent is attempting to duck, so let me show you what happens here. See, the thing is, back one is a 16 frame attack. So much like down forward 3 is a 16 frame attack. In fact, they have the same frames. They're both back 1 and down forward 3. They're both 16, 17. However, you know what else is set 16 frames? This move. This is a 16 frame startup, and so is this. The problem is that I want to talk about with this is it is viable, but the problem with this is that you are -16 and you have to commit to a follow-up, which your opponent can get a read on you from. So you can do either this is a high, this is a mid, but the mid can be mashed, and this is a low. But you have to commit to one of those options, otherwise you're going to remain here at -16. Now, if you want to be a little bit safer, you could elect to go for down forward 2, where if you do it by itself, it becomes -13, which is not that bad. It's definitely a lot better than being -16. Now you do have a follow-up, but look at here. You see this? Your opponent can duck that follow-up, and if you are fighting a skilled opponent that understands the Raven matchup, they will armor through this, or they'll duck and counter hit launch you. So it's best to be very wary about how you throw down forward 2, 3 out. Now, if it connects, this is great. You know, it's a great combo starter. You know, you can get a very good amount of damage for it. You know, but you have to be mindful of the weakness. So if you want to just, you know, do it by itself, that's also pretty decent. It's not the worst thing, honestly, you know, but your mileage will vary. I just want you as a Raven player to understand not only the benefits of an attack, but also the potential drawbacks as well. So everything surrounding the back one and all of the mind games from it, I think that is definitely something to explore in your own gameplay. Also, another good thing that was buffed as well is the back turn 2-1. Back turn 2-1, and when you go forward with your dash, it becomes +3. And then from this, you could do quite a few things. Most Raven players will elect to just go for a grab. You know, I like that, you know, you can mix up your grabs here. Experiment with that. Just know that it is available. So again, to recap, Soul Zone 1 is +1 on block, and it's +5 when you're dashing forward, which is exceptional. And it will prevent people mashing after they block the back one elbow. They'll respect this move, and it'll give you, the Raven player, time to do your drop down variants. But you will not be able to do this, like I said prior, if the opponent is mashing. So once you're able to kind of get them to stop pressing, you know, that's how you make use of that. So I think that's about it for the back one elbow on block, and then the potential follow-ups and how to potentially condition your opponent. So as far as I'm concerned, as a Raven player, we are eating very well. And if there's anybody out there that is still complaining about Raven, I would definitely say no disrespect, but you probably do not know how to properly lab your character. So utilize this video as a frame of reference to build upon your own Raven, because between this move right here, and the running attack, we are eating very, very good. In addition to all of the other things I covered in the earlier segments of the video. So now let me give you my general impressions. I definitely feel that Raven as a character is super strong in this game if used properly and according to his blueprint, which I hope that I was able to explain and share in this video. No longer is Raven, in my opinion, considered to be among the worst characters in the game. I cannot see that being a reality in any stretch of the imagination. If you are leveraging his new techniques, the way in which I showed in the earlier segments of this video, I have no doubt that you will succeed as a Raven player. And if you are also a seasoned veteran, you know, perhaps maybe you've seen something in this video that might benefit you. That's great. Make it your own, add it into your skill set, or should I say into your repertoire. And I'm hoping that this video gave you some sort of value. If so, if you're not subscribed, you know, I gotta do the typical YouTube thing. Subscribe to the channel. I've recently became YouTube partner. I do have a video about that, showing my appreciation to my subscribers. So, you know, do check that out. And I appreciate each and everyone's support. Anyway, let me get out of here and work on with the next video. Peace.